Welcome back to the Coast Watch. My name is Lockie, and we are here for another edition of the Coast Watch Football Podcast, where we sit down to chat all things across the A-League men's competition, the Socceroos, Central Coast Mariners, everything got to do with Australian football. And I'm so excited to be joined today by some more passionate fans, some Mariners fans joining me right now, Dylan and Jake. Guys, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good
dude.
to be here.
Dude, I'm stoked that you guys are here, and look, this is a very important week for Mariners fans because we've got one of the biggest games in the past decade coming up, and of course that's going to be, I'm sure, a big chunk of this episode, talking about that game, previewing it, talking about our chances heading into the game as well. But first of all, we'll dive through the A-League men's action that we saw take place over this weekend, and there were 4 games that took place, and we'll run through them and some of the big talking points that have come out of those games because there are certainly some big talking points, and we'll start with those 2 games on Saturday night. So Western United defeating Melbourne City 1-0 and Brisbane Roar 3-0 over Western Sydney Wanderers, and the sacking of Carl Robinson, which was sort of inevitable, and we have heard they basically announced it. I mean, it's almost like they had it ready to go. Mark Rudan has been announced as the new head coach of West Sydney Wanderers. Dylan, if we want to start off with you, what did you make of, if you want to pick out any of those games, Brisbane Wanderers or Western United, what did you make of those results? An important win for Western United, and Melbourne City look a bit shaky, and a big win for Brisbane, who have been struggling this season. Hey.
Yeah, I only caught a bit of both games, but the City versus Western United game, I still thought City were probably the better team, and they had a lot of players out due to Socceroos. But yeah, that was an alright game. I wouldn't say, maybe a draw was more deserved, but yeah, it's good to see Western United, any team to beat City is always a good thing. So yeah, and then the Brisbane versus Western Sydney game, Western Sydney were just horrible, not up to the standard at all. But yeah, that's why they got rid of Robinson. Hopefully Rudan can turn it around.
I mean, you'd think anything's going to be better at this stage. Watching that game on Saturday night, Wanderers were just so poor. Only managed 8 shots in that game in total. And they had the majority of possession. I think they had 60% possession, but just didn't do anything with it. It was shocking. Hey,
they've got such a good team as well. They shouldn't be losing the way they are. They've got so many class players. So many. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. And Jake, just to ask you, I mean, with Mark Rudan coming in now for West Sydney Wanderers and looking at the number of star players they have, these names that are familiar to A-League fans, in Dimitri Petrados, Tom Ahmed, Terry Antonis. Do you reckon Mark Rudan's going to be the right man to turn it around, or do you reckon it's going to be too late for Wanderers this season? Do you reckon they're making a top 6 push?
I don't think so. I don't think Mark Rudan's going to turn it around.
Really?
What he did at Western United. Yeah, what he did at Western United, he had a lot of star players at Western United, and he didn't make finals there. So I don't think he's going to be able to do it at Wanderers, considering the form they're in as well.
It's interesting, and it's good to hear sort of the differing opinions from you guys, because that's what it seems to be online. That it's quite varied. Some people are really disappointed with the appointment. Some people were expecting Van Egmond, who was brought in as assistant coach, to be promoted to head coach.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting one. The thing that I do want to point out is Rudan took over at Wellington Phoenix and took them to the finals in his first season. And I think in the first season in charge at West United, he took them to 1 game away from the grand final. So that first year was really good, but that second year was really poor. Last season, West United were really poor.
Yeah.
So, Dylan, what do you make of this signing? Mark Rudan, I mean,
I definitely think short term it will definitely improve the squad, because the players are going to want to be in the starting 11. They're going to want to impress him. It's always first impressions as a new coach is always important, but I can't say long term it's going to be the solve, to be honest. But I guess we can only wait and see. There's not much else to it, I don't think. What do you think?
Yeah, look. I think, as I mentioned, anything's going to be better. And the problem for West Sydney Wanderers fans is probably regardless of who they appointed, they probably still wouldn't. Nothing would make them optimistic for the future because of these. Yeah. We've heard these rumors of a toxic culture behind closed doors and people higher up. Whether those people need to be changed. And whether those rumors are true or not. We don't know in the end, but. Yeah. There's a sense that, West Sydney Wanderers, they've been stuck in this rut for 5 years now. They haven't made the finals, I think, for 4 or 5 seasons now. And considering where they were early on, they have to be up. They have to be up.
Yeah, they have to be, especially with the squad they have. It's crazy. I don't know. It's just weird to see such a good team not doing well.
100%, yeah, and especially in midfield, I keep highlighting it that I think Wanderers arguably on paper have one of the best midfields, like Jack Rodwell, Steven Ugarkovic, Keanu Bacchus, Terry Antonis, all of these guys are so good, a proven quality A-League level players. Even Jack Rodwell's impressed so far in his short stint already. So, look, it's going to be interesting to see where Western Sydney Wanderers go from here. But I guess the only way is up. They currently sit second bottom of the ladder. Well, they can go down to bottom place, but Wanderers fans will be hoping for an improvement. Hey, let's shuffle on to the 2 Sunday games. And of course, being Mariners fans, we will dive in very deeply to the Sydney FC Central Coast Mariners game. 3-2, a weird game. I mean, just to start it off, I don't know about you guys, but I feel weird after this game. I felt like we were going to win it. Yeah, right? I felt like we were going to win it. We're up 2-1. Yeah. And then, I don't know what happened. The boys just looked like they ran out of legs. Sydney FC come back and win it 3-2. Jake, if we want to start off with you, what did you make of this game? We were missing, Kai Rolls, some key players still out, but what did you make of this game, Jake?
Well, to be honest, I thought we didn't deserve to lose, firstly. I thought we probably deserved a draw at least. A couple of big talking points was Kurt Ames, not sure what you make of those decisions, but yeah, I thought there was an offside in one of them.
What did you make, Dylan? Do you think it was offside or not? Oh, of course, I assume Jake, you're talking about that second goal. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you make of it, Dylan?
I don't even know. I'm not a referee. I don't keep up with all the rules, but it looked offside. And I get what they were saying, that it didn't come off the second player. And if it did, it would have been offside. But even if so, it did look like it came off the second player. But the whole game was riddled with weird calls, the handball, that was similar to Lecky's handball, I found, and that went against us, and this one went against us as well. So it's just really inconsistent refereeing, I think, and I don't think we deserve to win the game, but we definitely didn't deserve to lose it. And we got very tired at the end, and maybe that's due to not having Kai, but there's rumours of him going, so that's not the standard we can be up to if we do lose him. But yeah, we definitely pulled it back. It was a good performance, but definitely not worth the loss.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, overall, it was a good performance. And it feels like we haven't really had, out of all the losses, maybe last week against Melbourne City, I thought maybe was our weakest performance of the season so far. Sure. There hasn't really been many games where we've really been out of it or really been sort of absolutely dominate. We've been in games every game this season. Yeah, sure. But there's a couple key points that I want to talk about, especially regarding the squad. And first of all, touch on some of the rumours around some of the players. And as you mentioned there, potentially Kai Rolls leaving the club. The strongest one that I think we've heard is Mark Birighitti potentially leaving. And I think we've heard things about Rudan Tongic and whether the other players have been linked with moves away. I mean, what do you guys make of it? Heading into the season, I felt so confident with our squad and so many exciting young players. It's as a Mariners fan, I'm really concerned if some of these key players leave, like Kai Rolls, like Mark Birighitti. We need to bring in replacements. So what happens? Should we be concerned as Mariners fans? Are there players on the market to bring in?
I'm not concerned because they haven't happened yet. If they have, then yeah. I'm still thinking that we should have brought in another midfielder, at least a more experienced midfielder, because Harry Steele and Max Ballard, amazing job, top class. But we shouldn't be relying on those boys. I don't know, but I can't see Mark Birighitti leaving. He's got his family on the coast. He's getting up there. I get the money would be better in Japan, I think was where he was going. But but as Monty said, they're rumors. It's not solid yet, at least, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and especially in the middle of a season. And the weird thing is, it's not even in the middle of the season for us. I feel like we're just still in the first stages of the season. So to lose some of these players after such a promising start for the club is concerning. And the other one as well is I want to bring up Jason Cummings, who, of course, fantastic debut to get his first goal. And it's great to have a player of his caliber at the club. But it almost raises the question now with some of these more defensive players being linked with moves away and we bring in another striker. And something that I've brought up a lot, and I would love to get your guys' input on this, is look, I'm so it's awesome that Cummings is here at the club. But you just wonder why we signed another striker when we already have Nikolai Muller, Mateus Maresh, Marco Renia, Matt Simon, Damien Zakena, so many players in that front half of the pitch, but didn't strengthen the centre-back position or the central midfield position. Do you guys have a take on that? What do you make of it?
You go first, Jake.
I definitely think we should have brought in someone more defensively minded. We're looking pretty thin in that area. But for me, the biggest worry is the goalkeeper position. If we lose Birighitti, We have Yaron Souza out injured already. So we're down to our third choice keeper. Will become our main keeper pretty much. So yeah, I think that would be the worst case scenario if Birigidi left.
Yeah, 100%. Because especially considering not only is he our first choice keeper, but he's one of the best keepers in the league. It would be a massive blow, and I think it would be a blow to our finals hopes. Especially the way we started this season. We're expecting ourselves to, I think, make the top 6 this year once again. So look. Hopefully all of these guys stay at least for the rest of the season. I'm happy for them to leave at the end of the season, but as long as they just stick around for now, man, especially during this crucial time, still early on in the season. And the other Sunday game that I do want to touch on as well. So Newcastle Jets, Adelaide United, and oh my goodness, Adelaide United and are the kings of the comebacks. They've done it again. They did it against Melbourne City twice this season already. And they've done it here. Newcastle Jets overall had a pretty decent game and were up 1-0 with I think, 5 minutes to go. Iran Kunda, 15-year-old, scores a banging free kick. And then Ibusuki, the new Japanese signing, scoring a winner. What's going on up there at Newcastle?
Oh, I still think that they're really, really good. As much as I hate to say it as a Mariners fan.
That's true.
But yeah, it's good on the, what's his name, Arakunde, how do you say it? Amazing.
I think it's kick. Yeah, it's a trick. Iran Kunda, I think it's a tricky one, eh?
Amazing free kick. Really happy for him, especially at such a young age. Like that's what every kid dreams of. But yeah, I think Adelaide were just better, or they not even better. They just took their chances more because Newcastle definitely weren't poor. I don't think anyway. But yeah, it's hard to It's still that early on in the season that you can't say Newcastle are going to blow the finals or something. But yeah, Adelaide I would say deserved the win, and they did well to pull it back for sure.
Yeah, and the result now sees Adelaide United in third place on the ladder. It feels really weird because like a few weeks ago, Mariners, I was like, if we won, I think it was the Melbourne City game. I was like, if we win this, we could be in third place, like by the end of the round. And all of a sudden, we're like out of the top 6. Melbourne City are third. It's all over the place. Jake, what do you make of Adelaide United specifically this season? Do you reckon they're like a team that actually could challenge towards the top of the ladder this season?
Yeah, well, at the beginning of the season, I put them like pretty down low on my ladder prediction. So they've surprisingly done pretty well to be up there. But I'm not sure how they're going to keep that going throughout the season. But yeah, with these youngsters coming through in their squad, they could surprise a lot of people this season.
For sure, yeah, and I was the same, and I think a lot of people were like putting Adelaide United down towards the bottom, but yeah, maybe they're the surprise package this year. So, look, some really interesting results from the weekend and some big stories coming out, and of course, from Mariners' point of view, so fantastic for Jason Cummings to score that debut goal. That's probably the highlight of the weekend as Mariners fans. But when I've got the ladder in front of me, I mean, Western United as well, that win takes them to second place on the ladder, so good stuff happening down there. John Aloisi is doing the job. They're not necessarily scoring that many goals. They've only scored 7 Western United this season. Adelaide United in third, City in fourth. MacArthur still haven't played a game in a long time in fifth, Sydney FC just ahead of us in sixth, Mariners in seventh. Brisbane in eighth, Perth ninth, 10th, Wellington Phoenix, and then Wanderers and Newcastle Jets make up the bottom 2. So are there any teams, like just to round out sort of how we're sort of seeing the A-League take shape now after 10 weeks or so, are there any teams that have surprised you guys in particular? Like, who do you think we should really be wary of this season? Is it simply Melbourne Victory? Do you reckon they're going to run away with it this season, or are there other teams around there that are going to be dangerous?
Melbourne Victory are definitely hands down going to be the best team in the competition. I'd be very surprised if they didn't take the plate. MacArthur have been very, very, very good. They've not had as many games as the other teams, but like just looking at their squad, like I don't think people like understand how good MacArthur's squad is. Like it's insane. Like definitely capable of competing with Melbourne Victory, which I think they have been doing. But yeah, it could go either way. Like we were talking about Adelaide, like no one expected them to be up there so far, especially because they seem to have been pretty poor so far. But yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting thing as well is that every team has shown promise, I think, as well. Like, it's interesting to see Newcastle Jets, and I think, Dylan, it was you that just said earlier, like, they've been good this season. Like, they've got Becca Mikuladze, Daniel Pena, like, the new imports that they've brought in have been doing really well, and they're sitting bottom of the ladder. It's weird.
Yeah,
Wellington Phoenix on their day have pulled results, have been pulling some decent results lately as well. Made it to the semi-finals of the Cup, of course. Western Sydney Wanderers maybe the team that sort of have been underperforming the most, though. So whether they'll pull it together. But yeah, look, it's a really interesting season yet again in the A-League.
Yeah.
And of course, anything can happen. So who knows? Maybe Mariners will be top of the table come 2 or 3 weeks time. And of course, so many games in hand for so many of these clubs as well. But hey, we should jump into the big one, the FFA Cup Final, because it is massive. I'm so excited for it. Of course, bitterly disappointed that it's not being played at the Central Coast Stadium on Brisbane water there by the palm trees. It would have been a beautiful evening. But look, a big one. And Jake, we'll start off with you. I mean, what's your just general feelings heading into this game? What lineup should we be seeing if we're going to win this game? Do you reckon we are a chance to win this game, or a victory just simply going to be too strong at home in front of a packed Amy Park?
Well, I think it's going to be pretty close. Melbourne Victory are very strong. They looked very strong against Wellington in the semi-final, and I think with a full home crowd, it's going to be pretty packed there. They're going to have the full crowd behind them, and I think they might be too good for us. I'm not sure.
Yeah. What about you, Dylan? Do you reckon there's any hope for the Mariners?
You have to say yeah, but Melbourne Victory is so good, but it's really. I was trying to predict the game earlier. It's just such a tough one. I was there for about 10 minutes trying to decide a score that could happen, and it was just tough. It could honestly go either way, and a lot of people are going to tip Melbourne Victory because they've got such a good team. But then we have a really good team as well, especially in attack. And yeah, it's going to be a really tough game, but definitely willing to give the boys a chance. I'm not going to say we're not going to win, because I think there is a solid chance that we will, even though it'll be a very tough game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What I want to talk about as well is picking the lineup. And this is the fascinating thing for me, because I think this could go, I think there are a couple of key positions where it could go either way. And I think what we'll do, we'll go through sort of section by section, defense, midfield, and attack. Okay. For me, my best defense is of course, Birigidi, Miller, Dan Hall, Kai Rolls, and Jake Farrell. And this is considering that, hopefully that everyone's fit and hopefully Rollsy is set to go coming back from playing over in Oman for the Socceroos qualifier. Would you guys make any changes to that back line? Does Rudan Tongyik come in? Or for me, Dan Hall and Kai Rolls have been the standout so far in the centre of defence.
Yeah, I would say start Dan Hall. Tongyik has been good since he's built his fitness up, but I still think Dan Hall has been superb, so good. So it's hard to change that.
I've seen some people on the weekend from Sydney's game, our game against Sydney, that Tongyik was looking a bit tired throughout the game and was looking to clear the ball when he got it.
The whole team looked tired, to be fair.
Yeah. So, but I think Dan Hall would be the option there.
For sure.
And that's the concern as well. I think we've seen it a few times this season. I think that the previous week against Melbourne City, I think Rudan came off after 60 minutes. There's been some other games. I think it was against Wellington. He came off as well. I think McCarthy might have come off as well. But there's been a number of times this season where Rudan hasn't been able to run out a game. I don't know whether there's injury problems still lingering on. But yeah, it just seems to make sense, especially in a game which could potentially go for 120 minutes. We need a fit squad. So hopefully Kai Rolls is back as well to partner potentially Dan Hall in the centre defence. Across midfield, Dylan, if we just want to jump in with you, what's your ideal midfield, especially in those wide positions? It's so tricky to pick. I feel like Ollie Bozanic, of course, as being our best player, is a lock and our captain. But what does that midfield four look like for you, Dylan?
It's a tough one. I'd say Maresh on the left. Bozanic, obviously. I don't know if Muller is keen on the centre mid position. I'm not really familiar with that whole situation, but if Muller is up to it, and I'd say him, or Harry Still's done great, Max Ballard also great, and maybe even put Cy Goddard at the right and then Nisbet in the middle, but Nisbet has also been very good on the right. So yeah, I'll go Nisbet on the right and say Harry Still in the middle.
What about you, Jack? What's that midfield look like for you? Any changes to that?
I'd probably put Max Ballard instead of Harry Steele. But yeah, other than that, pretty much the same.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Dylan, you brought the Muller one, and it's funny, Nikolai Muller. I mean, he got some minutes off the bench again, his second appearance for the Mariners so far this season. It is interesting to see where he's going to fit in. Like in both games, he's come on in a forward position, and it looks like he will be played as one of those strikers. And from what we saw at Wanderers, he can play sort of as almost one like a number 10, sort of sitting in behind. I think if he was to play as maybe a central midfielder, you sort of lose a bit of balance there because Harry Steele and Max Ballard are naturally sort of a bit more defensively inclined anyway. But specifically those wide positions are the tricky thing for me. I mean, on the weekend we saw Maresh and Benny play. I don't know how I felt with Maresh playing on that right wing. I just, when you compare that to having Josh Nisbet there, Josh Nisbet is such a hard worker, and he'll get forward in attack and he'll get back in defense. And I don't know if Maresh is that kind of player. Maresh seems to be more comfortable in a forward position. And on the left, for me, I'd go Cy Goddard. I'd go Cy Goddard over Benny.
You prefer Cy to Benny?
I think so. Okay. Purely, and something I brought up, I actually brought this up when I did on YouTube, sort of the live reaction to the game afterwards. And I said, imagine what it would be like starting, Niz and Cy in the wide positions, and then 60th minute, bringing on Maresh and Benny on the wings. And imagine those two players who are skillful players, who are fast players, and both very direct players who like to take players on. Imagine them attacking tight defenders later on in a game. Like, that's something different. So that could be an option as well. So that's how I would go with it. Niz and Cy on the wide positions, and then those guys to come on the wings. And then for me up front, whether you guys have any different thoughts, but I feel like now it's going to look like that Orenya and Cummings is going to be the combination moving forward. Would you guys make any changes to that? Maybe Muller, Maresh coming in?
No way.
No. Yeah, that's the duo.
Yeah. It looks like it. And they're two class players too. I mean, Marco Orenya played at the World Cup. Jason Cummings, we know the quality that he has as well. So it's going to be really fascinating to see what Monty chooses, because I feel like Montgomery's still figuring out our best 11. And obviously we've had to deal with COVID cases. We've had to deal with injuries, international duty now. Like every week there's a new problem. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can have the strongest squad go ahead for the game down in Melbourne and Amy Park on Saturday. It's a massive game. And look, hopefully we have a strong contingent of Mariners fans going down as well. I'm sure everyone on the coast will be tuning in for this big one. Let's go score predictions just to finish it off. Let's draw some score predictions for this game. And I want to know, is it going to be done in regular time? Is it going to be done in extra time, or potentially in penalties? Jake, we'll start off with you. How is this game ending? Let us know.
All right. So at the end of the 90 minutes, I'm saying it'll be 2-2. It'll go to extra time, and then I reckon we'll win it in extra time.
I like one. Who's scoring the winner?
Got to go Orenya.
Oh, dude, I'd love it. What about you, Dylan?
I wrote it down before, so I reckon it's going to be 3-3. And then I think we're going to win 5-4 on pens, and I reckon Urana's going to bag a double.
Yeah, man. And dude, I hope, especially with Marco, with Cummings, with these big players, I feel like they're going to step up in this big game, man. I feel like that's where they're really going to flash. Yeah, and you're right. That's why we bring those guys in for these big games when we make to these finals, so that they can be there to score the goals. Marco did it in the semi against Sydney, so hopefully he can be the hero again for us in this cup final. Man, I'm so excited. Just talking about it now, I'm so hyped for it. So Saturday, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. FFA Cup is one of the biggest games that the Central Coast Mariners has ever seen. So our chance to win silverware, and of course, should mention as well, a chance to secure a place in the Asian Champions League, which is pretty awesome as well. Jake, Dylan, thanks so much for joining me for this podcast to talk about some of the action in the A-League, to preview the FFA Cup final. Always great to chat with some fellow Mariners fans. So, guys, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. Had a good time.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Cheers. All right. And of course, guys, Coastal Football Podcast. The new episodes drop every single Tuesday, available on YouTube or any podcast platforms wherever you listen to your podcasts. And of course, make sure to catch all of the socials as well, Coastwood Football, across all social media platforms. My name's Lockie. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and have a fantastic week.